about our agenda here. We want to take a brief look through some slides around the Atlassian solution and Jira Service Desk and how we pair up asset management with that, and then we'll move into a live demo. So Atlassian was actually a fairly unknown company until they went public just a few years ago, but now they're a $650 million company with over 2,500 employees. And of course, at last count, there were more than 90,000 organizations, including 80 of the Fortune 500 that are using Atlassian software. The Atlassian solution is actually a purpose-built suite of software, which is modularized for ease of use and flexibility. But combined together, they make up a well-thought-out solution that can support your organization from DevOps all the way through IT service management. And the various pieces of the Atlassian solution that you see here, such as Jira Service Desk and Confluence and Jira Software and Bitbucket and Bamboo, they make up that end-to-end solution to support the application lifestyle. And there's also a new strategic partnership that Atlassian has recently announced with Slack. So you'll see that here as well. Now, we're going to focus today mostly on the Jira Service Desk piece of the overall solution, but I did want to mention those, and I'll refer to a couple of the integrated pieces as we go along. There's actually many teams using Jira Service Desk. In fact, since it launched 6 years ago, there are 25,000 teams have been using it. And now these range anywhere from small to medium-sized teams all the way up to really large enterprise teams. And one thing that really sets the whole solution apart from the competition is their mission, really, to provide an effortless user experience. Everyone loves how easy it is to set up Jira and to maintain it. And in fact, it's even been rated not only easiest to use and shortest time to set up, but also easiest to maintain among other solutions of its kind. So Jira Service Desk is purpose-built for IT and service desk teams and provide your teams with really everything they need right out of the box, including ITSM workflows for service request management, and incident management, problem management, and change management. And it lets you give your customers a way to ask for help in the portal while you're able to have your agents resolve incidents even faster than ever. And it can scale to meet growing needs and enabling IT teams to deliver world-class service. But what about ITIL? Can Jira Service Desk support ITIL? You bet it can. The ITIL, as many of us may already know, is a gold standard for IT teams around the world. It's an integrated set of best practice processes for delivering IT services to customers. And Atlassian knows how important ITIL is to the community. So several years ago, they worked to get Jira Service Desk ITIL certified. So it is now Pink Verify ITIL certified in the 4 processes of request fulfillment or service request management, incident management, and problem management, and change management. And together, those really cause Jira Service Desk to stand above the other vendors in the ITSM market because of the adaptability that it provides for implementing and streamlining those support processes, and really offers you a true path to lean ITIL and ITSM. So I wanted to take a closer look at each of these processes, these ITIL processes, and how Atlassian is able to support them. So Atlassian really thinks of ITSM as a way to serve and build modern IT teams. And that starts with collaboration. Being able to collaborate seamlessly while driving end-to-end visibility is really the key here. Agility is important because by applying principles of Agile, you can really modernize your ITSM processes. And, last but not least is value. It's really about being able to realize value and not just efficiency. So one of the things that Atlassian has provided, in addition to those main level solutions that I mentioned a moment ago, Jira Service Desk, Software, Bitbucket, Bamboo, Confluence, they've also provided us a rich ecosystem they call the Atlassian Marketplace. Now, this is where Atlassian themselves and other Atlassian partners are able to provide add-ons or plugins for the system to either extend functionality or to provide integrations. And these are available right from the Atlassian Marketplace and are maintained by Atlassian and the other partners that provide them so that you can just use them. And one of the most popular of those Jira Service Desk add-ons, and there's actually over 200 add-ons in the marketplace that are compatible with Jira Service Desk, that offer things like analytics and customer workflows and things like that. But out of all those, one of the most popular is the integration in the marketplace called Insight Asset Management for Jira. It is provided by a vendor called Riata, and Insight provides enterprise-level asset management to allow you to manage and control your assets inside your Jira environment. And this could even include automated asset updates with the Insight Discovery tool. So it can be a full end-to-end asset management system. And so with Insight, Jira Service Desk can really provide a full enterprise asset and configuration management process. So Jira Service Desk really has everything you need for your agents to prioritize and resolve requests faster right out of the box, including SLAs, agent queues, and the customer portal, and more. And automation rules and approval workflows both help to cut down on manual work and help you to deliver support faster. So let's look specifically at these processes. Service request management. So we all know that IT receives a wide variety of requests from customers, and these can be simple requests for support like a new mobile device or software installation. It's really the size and frequency and low-risk nature of these kinds of requests that make them more appropriately handled by a separate process instead of forcing them into the incident process or the change process. So ITIL's identified for us the process to handle these types of requests as request fulfillment or service request management. I think the terms are pretty interchangeable. And Jira Service Desk is able then to provide a fast and efficient way to implement an ITIL-based service request catalog. It provides ITIL workflows that are needed to support requests that require approval and another workflow that supports requests that don't. And the self-service customer portal makes it easy for customers to request help and track progress on issues. And when you add the Atlassian collaboration solution called Confluence, which I mentioned a moment ago, and Confluence is the wiki-style collaboration documentation tool that Atlassian provides. When you add that to Jira Service Desk, it makes it even simpler to add searchable knowledge-base articles and deliver even more value to your customers. So let's take a look quickly at incident management. Now, the Service Desk team provides the first line of response for incidents, since they provide a single point of contact for the customer communications between them and IT. And according to ITIL, the aim of incident management is to restore any disruption to service as quickly as possible. And Jira Service Desk provides best practice ITIL workflows and fields required for an IT team to streamline their response to incidents. When you combine that with the power of the dynamic power of SLAs and queues and the collaboration, you really have a service desk that empowers IT teams to resolve incidents really quickly. Knowledge management. So I mentioned Confluence before, and this is where Confluence comes in. Knowledge management is really a key part of the ITIL model, providing both customers and staff with the correct and up-to-date information when they need it. And Jira Service Desk can pair with that Atlassian solution, Confluence, to provide a knowledge base searchable by the users in the portal. So they can search through articles in the portal and find exactly the knowledge they need. And we can even provide a more targeted, maybe confidential or technical set of knowledge-based articles in a completely different space for support staff to use. And in addition to many other things Confluence could be used for, one great use for it is to support playbooks and run books, as well as post-incident reviews, where you can gather together and really capture insights on what went well and shared learned lessons together. Let's move on to problem management. So I mentioned incident management. While that's all about finding the shortest path to restoring normal service, problem management, on the other hand, is really all about finding the underlying issues of incidents. Pardon me. And the best resolution and prevention of future incidents for them. And Jira Service Desk provides a path for IT teams to implement problem management and really just make it a logical extension of your incident management process. And change management. So every organization faces the challenge of how to maintain a constantly changing infrastructure. So again, ITIL has provided a set of best practices for change management that makes it easier for IT teams to prioritize and manage changes efficiently while being sure to minimize the impact and risk of those changes. And so change management is a process designed to understand and minimize these risks while making those changes to critical systems and services. And again, Jira Service Desk offers a streamlined path to ITIL change management, which can provide a standard approach for prioritizing and responding to requests for change, while being sure to reduce failed changes and service disruptions and defects and the need for rework. IT teams can also leverage an app from the Atlassian marketplace for Confluence called Team Calendars. Now, Team Calendars adds to Confluence the ability to view Jira Service Desk issues in a calendar format. And so when added to Jira Service Desk, it can be used as the ITIL forward schedule of changes in order to help us plan and coordinate the appropriate time to implement a change. And another great feature of Service Desk is that it makes it really easy for IT teams to link their change requests over to the software development team's software releases to really create complete visibility between those teams. And then asset and configuration management, which is really our focus here today. All of the processes I've talked about already are usually related to objects in your environment, whether that be a laptop or a location or a business service. Jira Service Desk out of the box provides that incident and problem and change and service request management. But the asset management piece of that is actually provided by the Insight Asset Management for Jira, which adds to the system the ability to relate those configuration items or assets to incidents, service requests, problems, and changes in Jira Service Desk. And that way it allows IT staff to understand impacted services and systems much better. Now, every IT organization has varying asset and CMDB needs, but many are looking to Insight Asset Management for Jira in the Atlassian marketplace for this enterprise level. And Insight provides a modern CMDB that allows an IT team to easily define an asset application and a service structure that really fits their needs. And in addition, it offers a great level of flexibility when compared to other vendors. In addition to a flexible schema to match whatever business need that you might have, Insight also provides dependency mapping and impact analysis, automation, and workflow integration with both Jira software and Jira Service Desk. So this is where I'd like to focus today during our demo is around how those assets, how those CIs in our CMDB dovetail into all of those ITIL processes supported by Jira Service Desk. So let's move on to our live demo and take a look at Jira Service Desk and how Insight Asset Management can improve our Service Desk experience. So I'm going to share out my desktop here so we can begin our live demonstration. And hopefully now my desktop is showing. Before I actually showed anything in the demo portion here, I wanted to just say a quick word about roles, R-O-L-E-S. Really, there's two day-to-day roles with Jira Service Desk. There's an end-user customer role, and there's an agent role. End users, the customers, are a free, unlicensed role, and they can interact with the system through the customer portal or through email. In the customer portal, they're able to search knowledge, and they're able to submit new issues for the service desk, and they're also able to find and update their existing issues. Now, agents, on the other hand, are the folks that can do all the other things in the system, opening tickets for other people and transitioning them along their life cycle and resolving them and creating knowledge-based articles and that sort of thing. So for our demo today, I wanted to take things from the perspective of the customer first and take a look around the portal and see how that CMDB integration with the customer's perspective looks like. And then we'll toggle over to the agent side of things and see how our CMDB can really empower our service desk team to do what they need to do. So having said that, I'm going to open my first browser here, my Firefox browser, where I'm logged into the Jira Service Desk customer portal. Now, I'm logged in here as a little demo user. I've named Patsy Portal. And she can come to the system, and we've got options here for logos and colors and branding. And of course, your own company logo or really any artwork that you have could go here. I've simply added artwork here for Jira Service Desk just to show you the flexibility. But as Patsy comes here to the portal, if she is having an issue maybe with her network connection, she can search directly in the search box in the portal and review knowledge-based articles here that are not only text and graphic, but even image-rich. And she can follow troubleshooting steps here that are presented in the knowledge-based articles she's able to search through. And what we're looking at here, even though the main frame here is our Jira Service Desk portal, the article we're looking at is actually a Confluence page over in Confluence, in a Confluence space dedicated to this Jira Service Desk project, so that the customers of this portal are able to search through all of the knowledge-based articles in that knowledge base. And in that way, Patsy can come here and hopefully provide herself with some knowledge that may prevent her from even having to submit new issues for IT to have to ingest and deal with. And here at the bottom, we can even allow Patsy to provide feedback on whether this knowledge-based article was helpful or not. So she can say, yeah, it was. And that gets rolled up into some reporting in the Service Desk project that will help you keep your knowledge base up to date and fresh. So Patsy's maybe able to resolve one issue here herself, but let's say she's got a couple other things she needs to do here. One thing which she's going to want to do is request a new laptop. Let's say she's got an older laptop and a new job responsibility that requires some new software, so her old one's too slow and she needs a new one. She could search here in the knowledge search and be presented with knowledge-based articles that might match her search, but she would also see any request types she might want to submit for new issues for the service desk. So in this case, I'm going to choose the request new hardware option, but I wanted to show you that you can search for that here, or you can simply just choose it from the options at the bottom of the screen. So what we have here at the bottom is a list of categories of request types down the left and the various different request types down the right that are in those categories. And those categories are really just labels on the request. So that allows a given request to show up in more than one place. For example, that request new hardware that we're going to choose here has a common request label, so it appears under that category. But it also happens to have a computers label, so you'll see it appears here as well. And that really helps you structure your service request catalog in a way that users find it easier to find the help that they need. So regardless of how Patsy gets to it, she can drill down into this request type, and she would then be presented with a list of data elements that you would want to collect from her as your customer for this kind of request. Now, of course, this would be built to your specifications. What I've done here is simply an idea of something for a sort of fictitious demo company I've come up with. The system has to be configured somehow to allow me to demo from it. So I've made some decisions for my fictitious demo company here, such as saying that for a hardware request, we're going to ask for a summary and a reason why you need this, and a couple other fields here at the bottom. So I'm going to say that I need a new laptop here, understanding that if I, in practice, at your company needed to gather more information about this kind of request, you could certainly have this form include all the information you'd need. One thing you notice here immediately as I begin to type, we get knowledge-based article suggestions inside of the request. And these can even be targeted to a specific kind. So maybe inside of this hardware request, we would want to limit the knowledge-based article suggestions to maybe ones with a hardware label or equipment label or something like that. We don't need that here, so I'll dismiss it. And maybe we'll say, like I said, that maybe Patsy's old one is too slow, and that's why she needs a new one. One thing I want to point out here is this next field. I have given Patsy the ability, as she is submitting this new hardware request, to tell the service desk if this new piece of hardware is replacing something she already has, what is that piece of equipment she already has that it's replacing? So what we have here is a list from the CMDB, directly from our CMDB, presented here to Patsy in the portal on her request, limited to a list of the items, devices, and hosts that she has connected to her. So we can see here from Patsy's login that she's got a LaserJet printer assigned to her, and an iPhone, and a USB keyboard, and this Dell Latitude. And maybe we'll say this is the laptop that she's needing to replace because it's too old. And we could add a screenshot here if that would make sense, or some information about her new job function if I needed to add an attachment. And then here at the bottom, I just want to point out that if you choose to group your customers into organizations, they can share their requests as they submit them with other folks in their organizations. So if Patsy were maybe submitting this request for someone in her group, or maybe she's going to be out of the office for a few days, she'd want to share this with her team so they could see her request in their portal as well. So I'll go ahead and click Create, and we'll get that first request submitted here. And when I do, Patsy's brought to a view of that new request where she can see her ticket number, and she can see the status of her request, that it's waiting on support, and all of the details she's provided here. And notice she can see that that's the laptop she selected. So we'll pick this up from an agent perspective in a moment, but let's pop back out to the portal one more time. And I wanted to submit one other kind of request here. Now, the first one we submitted was sort of a service request. I don't have something that I'd like. But I also wanted to be sure to submit a something's broken kind of request. So we'll say Patsy has a scenario where she's got a link to their ADP payroll system on her company's intranet, and she's trying to access her pay stubs or something through that link, and she's getting an error. So she could come here and possibly use this request type to report a system problem. And maybe we'll say that ADP is not working on the intranet. And again, I get some Knowledgebase articles here I can dismiss. And maybe I'll say, I get a 404 error. This would be a great time to use that screenshot functionality of that error. And I wanted to specifically point out a couple of these next fields here. So on this new request on this new report of a problem, we've asked Patsy to provide us the service that she believes this relates to. And again, this list is directly from our CMDB. So I'm able to let Patsy here in the portal choose from a list of our business services that this problem is against. And as I mentioned, ADP is a link on their intranet, so I'm going to choose the company intranet service. And again, I've got another field from our CMDB. And in this case, I've got a list of locations my company is at. And so I'm able to say where this outage is. Maybe we'll say that's here in Dallas with me. And I can provide an urgency and an impact here. Maybe we'll say that's all moderate. And again, I'm going to click Create to create that new issue. And again, I'm brought to a view of that new issue. So we've seen how folks can search knowledge and how they can submit new issues. The third thing I mentioned they can do here in the portal is to find and update existing issues. So they do that with the request button here. And Patsy can see anything she submitted herself under My Request, or anything that's been shared with her organization here, or anything that may be shared with her directly by email address or username if you have that enabled in your system. But any of these will get Patsy to a list of previously submitted requests where she can view those. She can search by status or who created them, or a particular request type maybe, or even a keyword. So maybe she would search again for laptop here, and she's brought with a single previously submitted request that matches that. Here, her new laptop request that we just submitted. If I drill down into that, I get right back to where I was when I first created it, so that I can review any updates from the service desk, or I can communicate to them with comments. So maybe Patsy forgot to say, I need this ASAP. So in that way, Patsy can communicate back and forth with the assigned agent, or maybe the approver if this is the kind of request that would need an approval. And all that would be documented right here inside of the issue, not only from the agent's perspective, but from the customer's as well. So I'm going to leave the customer perspective here, and just wanted to mention again what we've seen here is that Patsy was able to search from a list of related devices that are assigned to her in the portal to be able to say that this problem I'm having, or this new service request I'm submitting, is against that piece of equipment. And she's also been able to submit issues against business services and locations directly from the CMDB. So I'm going to leave my Firefox browser now and move over to my Chrome browser where I'm logged in as myself, and I'll be acting as an agent in the system today. And when an agent logs in to Jira Service Desk, they land on a dashboard that's a collection of gadgets that are visual representations of things in the system. So I've got one here that details some broadcast messages my agents need about a voice service outage we're experiencing, and a link to our shift pass down log, and a link to our lunch menu and some team outing this week. I've got a list of issues that are about to miss their SLAs, a list of a count of issues by assignee, by type, pie charts and bar charts and the activity stream and heat maps. Really, there's dozens of gadgets you can add to a dashboard and configure them to show just what you need. And you divide a single default dashboard, but you can have as many other dashboards as you want. So you can create one for yourself or for your team, or an admin can do one for each of your divisions, or however you'd like to manage that. And any dashboard can be viewed as a wall board, so that it'll put those gadgets on a black background and scroll through page by page until we get back to the beginning. So if you happen to have a TV somewhere in a hallway or a conference room or a support room that you want to display some current statistics from the system, that's a great, easy, out-of-box way to do that. Now, once an agent logs in and gleans whatever information they might need to hear from the dashboard, we would have the agent choose a project to work with. And a project's just a collection of issues in the Jira Service Desk application that are all handled the same way. So in this case, I'm going to choose my ITSM project, which is the one that was paired up with the portal Patsy was using. When I open up a Jira Service Desk project, I'm initially brought here to my list of queues. And I think most applications have some idea of a queue, but I think many are specifically tickets assigned to a given team. And of course, we could do that. But ultimately, a queue in Jira is really just a criteria against all of the issues in your project to get you down to an actionable list. So, for example, I've got a queue here that's showing those same 4 agent broadcasts that we saw on the dashboard as a way to communicate some information to my agents. I've got one here just showing all my open tickets, and of course, this is where those new ones from Patsy show up. I've got maybe things recently completed or things about to miss their SLAs or VIP tickets. Ultimately, you can use queues in whatever way makes sense to you to get down to the work that you need to do at the right time. So I'm going to follow into this laptop request that Patsy made, and let's check that out. So what I see here, and I'm going to go ahead and minimize this sidebar a little bit to give us some more real estate. So what we see here immediately is that the device Patsy specified in the portal as the one she is her laptop, she was able to see its name, and that was about it. But from the agent's view, if I select that, I can see all of the details about that CI over in our CMDB. I can see its name, which Patsy could see, and I could see that it's an end-user device, and it's in a current status of active, and it's assigned to Patsy, and then it's in New York, so on and so forth. And so I am looking at a view down into the CMDB directly here from this particular service request issue. So in general, this is sort of how a Jira issue would be laid out. You've got all of your data here at the top and the ability to transition to various workflow stages. And you'll notice here that it is the request type in the portal that Patsy chose of requesting new hardware that gets mapped to a service request issue type on the back end. And you can have as many portal request types mapped to the same issue type on the back end as you'd like. So, for example, maybe we would have a request new hardware and a separate request new software, and maybe even a request access, different request types, and maybe all 3 of those end up in a service request on the back end. And it's the type of issue on the back end, service request in this case, that determines the workflow that the Jira Service Desk issue would go through. So as I click this View Workflow link, you can see the workflow that's paired up with this particular Jira issue. And really, this is where the power of Jira comes in, is this workflow model. So it allows me to define the different states that an issue can be in and all of the allowed transitions between those states, as well as what happens on those transitions. who's allowed to make them, what fields are required when you do make them, and when that transition occurs, do I want to notify somebody or update a field or create a related issue or those sorts of things. So what I notice here is that Patsy has said that she needs help with this ASAP. So I'd like to take assignment of this issue and go ahead and start helping her. So I'm going to choose this in progress transition. And when I do that, I'll assign that to me, and I'm going to use a canned response I've got stored in my system that I've called my initial response that populates Patsy's name and some canned text about that I've taken ownership of this issue, and I'll be back with you right away. And so I can go ahead and transition that issue. Now we're in progress and assigned to me, and you notice that we've met our response SLA. That is one thing I should point out here is that we do have SLAs available in Jira Service Desk, and for service requests in my system, I've decided we have an hour to respond and 8 hours to resolve. You'll notice when we get to our infinite, that's actually different over there. I've used different time frames for those. So at this point, I would go and find Patsy a laptop to configure and give to her, but how would I do that? So this is where I want to get into the details of our CMDB. So when you add asset management, inside asset management for Jira to your system, what happens is a new drop-down is installed in the menu bar at the top, and this will give you access to all of the data in Insight. Now, I'm going to choose this Insight Insight Object Schemas to show me a list of all of the schemas that I have access to. Now, because I'm an admin in my system, I can see a good bit, but you would only have access to the data that you are given. Just like with Jira, Insight uses the permission-based model, so we can only, we're able to present the right data to the right people that way. And what Insight really provides you is a way to create databases inside of Jira. And that's really what Insight is. It's a database of databases. So that's sort of how you can think about that. Each of these object schemas are a separate data store. Now, I happen to have 3 here in my system. I'm going to drill down into this demo object schema first to give you a flavor for what kind of Insight can do generically. So as I drill down into this object schema, what we would have are a list of all the object types that I've defined for the schema, and any objects that might exist in those object types. Now, I've kept it really simple here in this demo schema, and I've even called it my demo object schema. You, of course, could call this whatever you wanted to. And I've called my objects demo object type A and object type B. What I want to stress here is the ability to create custom attributes and custom object types and relate them together in the CMDB, or in Insight rather, for whatever purpose. The CMDB is a great use for this. You may have other uses as well. So what we notice here is that I've added a attribute to this object type, one for each of the different kinds of data, just to give you a flavor. There's text and Boolean, integers and floating numbers and dates only and dates and times, and URLs and email addresses and a multi-line text field, a selection list where I can choose from a drop-down. This one is actually a link to another object. So in this case, my object type, my instance of object type A is related to my one record over here in B. So on A, you can see a link to that. I have a link to a particular user here, or a link to a Confluence space or page, a selection of one of the groups from my system, maybe a version from Jira software if you have that installed. Or a particular Jira project. I've linked my ITSM project to this particular object in Insight. Or a status attribute where you can define predefined statuses for your objects. So I wanted to show you here that as I drill down into any one of these, I'm brought to a view of that particular CI or object, they call them in Insight, where I can see all of those details. And here I can see that link to object type B. If I were to click on that, I'm presented with the data from that other object type, and I could click down into that and see the instance of object type B. And now I would see my inbound reference from that other object type. So you notice that they're related in both directions, much like Jira issues when you relate them. So one thing I wanted to point out here is that you can add comments to items in the CMDB as well as view history. So just like in Jira, Insight tracks all of the changes that are made to the data. On what date and time, who changed, what attribute, from what value to what value. So it's all fully logged. You can also see any related Jira issues that may be related to this object over here in the Jira Issues panel. So I'm going to leave this really generic object schema, demo object schema, that I really just wanted to show you that it's completely configurable. There's nothing about what I've just showed you that really screams CMDB. But wait till we get to our CMDB object space. Now, this might look a little more familiar. So again, we have object types and objects populated in them with various attributes on each of the objects. But in this case, we have a much more CMDB flavor to it. We've got some network assets, hosts and devices, and network asset details. Now, these object types are created when you create an asset type of object schema in Insight. But I've also added a few custom object types here just to show you the flexibility. So I've created some business services like I mentioned. I've created some cost centers. I've created a couple of host types for end user devices and infrastructure. My list of locations we looked at. A list of people. The system has the ability to keep a CI for each of the people in your system linked to the Jira user records for them. So in this way, the CMDB can be fully tracked. So I am going to, let's see, what I wanted to do here is show you that much of this was imported using the Discovery Import tool. So in addition to Insight Asset Management for Jira, the add-on for Jira, Riata also provides a discovery tool that is paired up with Insight to allow it to be automatically populated from surveying your network. So when I ran that here on my little demo system in my lab, and that pulled back a list of, let's look at the ones that aren't end user devices. So here's a whole list of the discovered items that came from my discovery. So if I drill down into maybe the one that we're on right now, let's see, here we are. You can see that what Insight discovered was all of the CPUs and the operating system and the fact that it was virtual and some other referenced assets here, as well as its name and fully qualified name and the amount of RAM and model number. All that was discovered automatically. Additionally, all of the application services and connected devices and other related hosts and patches that are related to this CI are also referenced here. And if I use this object graph, I'm able to see the items in my CMDB in a graph fashion. So there's two views here, the force view and the tree view when you're looking at the graph. This tree view allows me to drill down into each one of the possible related object types and see which ones are related. So to my server here, I'm related to that infrastructure host type. Let's see, we'll open up connected devices here, and you can see that I've got a few connected devices as well. And the force view is a similar kind of thing, but shows it in more of a round object view where you can slice and dice through the various items in the graph. Now, there's a settings tab here that allows you to take this to a really narrow view or even to really expand that way out and include many levels. I can also decide which relationship types here, reference types here in the CMDB I want to show in the graph. So maybe I don't want to show these installed ones. I just want to show these. So I could uncheck that and remove those from the view, or if I uncheck everything. So as I come back up here, you can see that as I select on each of these items, I can see the details about them. And, of course, I can follow the link directly into that CMDB item. But in this way, I can really do some impact analysis around if this machine's affected, then what is happening with this one and this one. So everything is available here in a graph format to easily be able to be viewed and searched that way. So one of the things, the reason we were coming to the CMDB was to find Patsy a laptop. So I've got a list of end-user devices here, and I can see some that are deployed, and I can see the one Patsy has now that she noted on her service request. I can see one that's too old and has been decommissioned, but I can also see one in inventory here that I know will be good for her. So I can drill down into that and go ahead and add her to it. We'll show that this has been deployed, and we'll show that it belongs to Patsy. And now when we go to look at Patsy's profile, we can see both of those laptops. And this is actually a good thing to show you. This is Patsy's Jira profile. You're able to see all of the related insight items from the CMDB that are related to Patsy right here in her profile. So any of the support folks viewing her profile can see all of her related CIs. So now that I've picked out a laptop for Patsy, I would, of course, configure this and probably remove her old one, and then I'd want to come back and update this old record for her to show that it's now available. But let's go back to our issue, and we'll go ahead and resolve that out now that we have completed that for Patsy, and I'll specify that done as our resolution here. And when we resolve an issue in Jira Service Desk, the system can be configured to send out a survey with a configurable question and a 5-point scale that users can respond on, which also gets rolled up into some reporting that you can use. But let's go look at our one other issue Patsy submitted, that incident that we had, and that was around ADP. So you see here, my report a system problem mapped this to an incident. But again, I can see my insight objects directly on my issue here, on my incident. I can see the related service that Patsy chose. I can see the two pieces of infrastructure that participate in that and the related cost center and some related Jira project. I can see the location that Patsy said this problem was at. And as I begin to work this issue, maybe I go ahead and take responsibility for it, but maybe I don't really know what to do. So as I begin to investigate, I've been told I need to go help myself, or I'm allowed to reach out to ask for help. So I can come down to my comments here, and I can mention Adam, for example, and ask him, what do I do? And I can comment internally here rather than sharing with the customer so that Patsy doesn't see that update. Adam can respond to me here, and we can have a conversation in line right in the issue. And maybe the problem here is that we have many incidents coming in this morning around ADP, so he's asked me to create a problem request to have someone look into the root cause analysis and try to figure out what's going on that's causing all of these ADP problems. So from my More menu here, I'm going to create a linked issue, and I'll choose to create as a problem request. I could probably update my summary and description here. Maybe we'll just say users get a 404. But I'll go ahead and click Create. And anytime I create in Service Desk, I get a little pop-up here. But because I created a linked issue, I now have a permanently related problem to my incident. And as I drill down into that problem request, you can see that related incident as well. But because Adam told me we had lots of these, I'd like to go out and relate all of the incidents that had to do with ADP in our environment this morning so that our agents can have a full picture of all the incidents that this problem has caused. So at this point, I would put on my problem management hat, and I could go ahead and take control of this particular problem and begin to review it. When I do that, maybe I don't really know anything about this, but I can go to an agent knowledge base, as I mentioned before, that is separate from my customer. And here in my project shortcuts, I've got a link to that agent knowledge base. So as I drill down into this, I can see maybe I search for a run book related to what I'm doing, and I can search through really technical or maybe confidential information that I don't want exposed to my customer to help me troubleshoot this problem. But we'll say maybe I still can't figure it out. I did want to mention the Slack integration here, so this might be a good time to use that. Since we've got several issues here that are related to this same topic, maybe we'd want to use the new Slack integration. As I mentioned, Atlassian has recently announced a new strategic partnership with Slack, and I'm using a Slack integration here that allows me to create a brand new Slack channel and invite folks to chat here directly from this issue. And once I do that, I can now see any of the content that happens in that channel right here on my issue. So I could take this same channel, let's say, from my problem request, and I could drill down into maybe each of these incidents and relate the same Slack channel to that so that I could see all of the information that has happened on this particular issue. Across issues in the same chat room. Sorry, I went back too far there. Maybe what I hear from my chat with other folks is that what we have here is a problem with ADP changing their URL, and we didn't know it. So we've got a bad URL in our intranet. So I could get a knowledge base article created to get people that information, and maybe I choose a troubleshooting template here right from my knowledge base article suggestion section so that I can get a brand new Confluence space dedicated to this problem, a brand new Confluence page dedicated to this problem as a knowledge base article now out for new customers in the portal. And at this point, I'd want to document the specific place where this issue is in our environment. So I can come out again to my CMDB and I can see that this is related to my infrastructure, Internet Web Servers A and B. So I'd like to relate those to this issue. So I'm going to edit this issue, and in the field I've called configuration item, I'm going to come out to my search where I have a full search across my CMDB. I can look at those business services, I can look at those cost centers, I can look at any of the objects that I had permission to. But I know that I want to find my intranet ones, and so I can do a quick search here up in my search across my CMDB and find those easily and relate them here to my problem. So now I have a full picture here of where this issue is in our environment. And maybe the only other thing left to do is to create us a change request to get this ADP URL updated on our intranet. So maybe one last time I'll get us a new request going. In this case, I'll start a change request. And again, I have a permanently linked change here on my problem and a reverse relationship back to my problem. And you'll notice that all of my CIs followed me right over here from my problem to my change so that the people working the change have a full picture again of where this issue is and where it came from. So this uses a different workflow that's related to my change request here in my system, and it's a rather complicated one. I won't take our time to go through it all. But one of the first things I want to do with a change when I start it is to plan where I'm going, when I'm going to do it. And again, to support that, we're using the Team Calendars for Confluence add-on from the Atlassian Marketplace to provide the ITIL forward schedule of changes. So here in Confluence, I can see directly these Jira issues for these changes. So we had a Windows 10 upgrade that just completed on Monday. We had a few changes last couple weekends. We've got two that are hard scheduled for this weekend and one here in yellow that's been requested but not been confirmed. So maybe we'd want to stay away from this weekend for that new change. Maybe next weekend would be a good weekend since it looked open. But in this way, you can really slice and dice through what's being done when to be able to really plan your changes out better. So using that information, I could plan this change and execute it, and we would go ahead and resolve this change and then follow up with our problem folks to be sure that that did indeed resolve those incidents and close those on out. So I hope that you have enjoyed this view into the Jira Service Desk, the ability to add a CMDB to your Jira Service Desk with the Insight Asset Management add-on. We look forward to seeing you in future RightStar webinars and hope everyone has a great day.